What are you doing? Huh? Is it warm up there? Okay, just enjoy it on top of the hood, right? Don't get under the hood. Don't want mom getting mad at us, right? No, we don't. Nope, can't have mom mad at us. We have waited a long time for this day, guys. It looks like we officially have water on our property. Let's see, a few days ago, we did some kind of flow testing with the well. We had the pump installed, and then we kind of just primed the well. We just ran a bunch of water, and I think in the end we ran about 1,500 gallons through the well to try to clear it up. At first we were a little worried, even though we were told by the well driller and the pump guy that of course you're going to get some sediment in there from the drilling and all that stuff. So it makes sense that the water's a little bit not that great. I think we calculated that there's around 250 gallons of static water currently sitting in the well. When the static water level changes, of course, that's going to change. But that gives you an idea how much is actually sitting in the well casing itself. So naturally, we had to pump all of that out and then quite a bit more. We waited about 2 days or so, and we wanted to just kind of see what the well refreshed like. Was it clean still? Was it dirty? I fired the well up a little bit ago before I ran to town to do some errands, and sure enough, it was kind of murky looking. Not as bad as when we first started, but definitely not as good as where we ended up the other day. This is a little bit better than where we ended up the other day, which means this is probably, without a lot of use, about as good as this well is going to produce. But so far, I would say, I mean, without a ton of treatment, this water looks really good. I tasted the water the last time we were kind of working on this, and I tasted just a hint of iron and also kind of a hint of hardness. We're good and ready to retire the IBC Tote that we've been using for coming up on 4 years now. Well, actually 3 years, I suppose, to haul water. We didn't want to rush the process of getting the pump installed, but at the same time, we're ready to not have to go off property to haul water. If you haven't been following us for a long time, give the water system playlist a watch. It's long, there's a lot to it. It took us months to build the water system that I'm gonna show with you in just a second. But this is kind of the last piece of the puzzle. I'm kind of curious what the flavor of the water is after running it for a little while. It's about what it was the other day. It's not worse, but I wouldn't say it's a lot better. Yep, I can taste just a hint of iron. And if you've tasted hard water before, you kind of know what I'm talking about. It kind of has like a smooth taste. So for clarity or turbidity, I would say this is about as good as this well's gonna get in the near term. Of course, over time it might improve, but this is good enough, I think, to fill the cisterns. Of course, there's lots of questions about the water heater and appliances and stuff like that. But as far as drinkability, showers, cooking, cleaning, I think this water is great. We were also a little bit curious about the refresh rate on the well, which is a completely different metric than the flow rate. Because the primary purpose of the well right now is to fill the cisterns, the question was, can we basically flip the pump on, pump near 2,000 gallons out of that well, fill the cisterns, and shut it off? Part of the original strategy was to have cisterns so that if our well was low flow, we could pump very slowly over time and keep the cisterns full. Basically, as long as the supply exceeded the demand from the house, we would always be able to keep our cisterns full. It looks like this well right now, in the middle of the winter, is going to be able to produce phenomenal amounts of water. Of course, I don't fully understand all that stuff. There's probably people out there who can tell me exactly what our well is going to do, and there's probably folks that will say no one really knows. There's clearly an aquifer down there. It's clearly large because today we pumped about 1,500 gallons out of the well, and then a few days ago we did the same thing, and we don't seem to be having any issues with drawing down the water table. Of course, I believe we have somewhere around 40 feet of static water in that well. That's going to take some serious effort to draw that down. So where we're at currently, we have the cisterns at the top of the hill. We buried those so they're frost free, or they're freeze proof. They hold about 2,000 gallons of water, and we've been bringing water at about 250 gallons a pop home. Since the summer, when we were operating the garden, we have not run out of water. We've been hauling approximately 1,000 gallons a month, so roughly 4 times we've had to haul water each month for the last 5 months, and we've not run out of water. We do not have a monitoring system on our cisterns. That would be wonderful. The only thing is, we're trying to make sure that the monitoring system we install really fits the long-term objectives of the system. Now, if we were running out of water all the time, well, we'd probably put something on there that we could monitor it and we stop running out of water. We just haven't been. I don't know that we've been super conservative with water, but clearly we're not overusing the supply that we have. So at 1,000 gallons a month, somehow or another, we've been able to stay above board. That's part of what I want to check today. Before we start filling the cisterns with our well water, I want to see where our cisterns are at the moment. Well, wow, it looks like we're about 3/4 full. Probably hard to see, but it looks to me like we're actually doing awesome with water. We don't really need water at all right now. I'm not gonna lie, that's really surprising. This kind of proves you can't really tell, like we don't have a really gut feel. You know, when we first started out, we had this small 625 gallon tank, and we were emptying that. Well, I guess we were only getting water every 2 weeks, so we were going for a month on 625 gallons, and that was in the RV. We're in the house now, and yeah, our showers are longer than they were before. We now have a proper flush toilet, which is water conservation design. We're also brushing our teeth, and we now have a washer and dryer, clothes washer, even though it's a front loader, so that's pretty conservative. But we haven't brought water home for, let's see, probably a week, because we thought the well pump guy was gonna come last week and he didn't, so we brought just a little bit home. And I'll be darned, our cisterns are doing fantastic. So I guess without some really like finite or objective way to monitor our water usage, it looks like, you know, less than 1,000 gallons a month? Is that even possible in our house? I guess so, even with the washer running. I mean, we've not been stingy with doing laundry, getting all the bedding washed up. We cleaned the RV. I guess we're not washing cars, and we're not filling the swimming pool because we don't have one. Although I did add some water to the hot tub. I guess the report is we're doing fantastic on water. So I think what I want to do is wait. I think I'm just going to wait until we get near the bottom, and then we'll start filling it with water. I'm not sure what else to do. I mean, I guess I need some time to think about it, because I totally thought that we were getting low on water. Well, that does it for up here. I guess we'll head back down and just keep using the water the way we have been. Guys, I think it's only appropriate that we take a moment and say thank you to this IBC Tote. I mean, Mr. IBC Tote. I had to set this guy over here earlier so I could go pick something else up. And it kind of has that like kicked to the curb look. Do you guys agree? Do you see it? Kind of has that like, oh, I'm going to be covered in snow and nobody's going to care about me. Yeah, that. Mr. Tote, you've done a good job. We haven't run out of water except for once, and that wasn't your fault. You've survived winter and summer. You've bounced around in the back of our trailer for 3 years, and you haven't let us down. And guess what? The cisterns are still full. So you basically don't even need a well now because you do such a good job. So here's what I'm thinking, Mr. Tank. When we get the well running, you've done such a good job, we don't actually need it right now. But when we get there, what we'll do is maybe we'll find you a new home and you can help another family carry water. Sound like a plan? Guys, let's just say that we've spent so much time with this IBC Tote in the last 3 years that we know to the minute how long it takes to fill this tank at the water supply. And I'll just say, there's a part of me that's a little bit sad because the community water source that we used is used by a lot of people. Here, this isn't just like a hose bib. This community water source supplies water to a lot of our area for a lot of reasons. Some people can't afford a well. Some people are at different phases of property development. Some people have drilled and they're dry. They can't get a community water system. And probably the worst, they drilled and hit water and their well is completely full of sand. And it's destroying appliances and seals on faucets and things. We have met some amazing people. It's just funny because oddly enough, those people being at that place share a lot in common with Alyssa and I. And well, what else are you going to do while you stand there and wait for your water tank to fill but build relationships? And I think that watering hole, because it's such a critical place, is a place where a lot of friendships and a lot of handshakes have happened. And we're thankful for that. I think we've met some really beautiful people who have moved to the area and they're working just as hard as we have, and that's where they get their water too. All right, Mr. Tank. If we get a lot more snow this winter, I promise I'll come out and I'll at least I'll clear the snow off, okay? Because you never know, we might still need you. We haven't learned to trust the well yet, but you, my friend, we trust you. So a real quick story, guys. A couple of years ago, we had just paid off our car. It was one of the first real triumphs of this journey for us. We had worked really hard, saved hard, and made some good financial decisions, and we were able to pay off our car. And I'm not even kidding, the day after we paid off the car, Alyssa had taken the water tank to town. By the way, we used to tow this water tote in a very small utility trailer with our Subaru, because the truck that we have doesn't run great, it's a stick shift, and it doesn't have winter tires. And so Alyssa had taken the tank to town, and the driveway was very icy. We learned at that point that when you really get a good run at the driveway, the water tank has a tendency to slide inside the trailer. So it slid all the way to the back of the trailer, which made the tongue weight very light, which basically had the effect of lifting the rear of the car off the ground, although it wasn't completely off the ground. And she lost traction and got scared, and she stopped on the driveway the day after we paid our car off. So our car is jackknifed on an icy driveway with a tank of water in the back. The punchline, the end of the story, we drained all the water out of the tank so that we could safely back the trailer down the driveway and not damage the car. All of her work was for nothing, but it was worth it because we saved our car. Gonna kind of miss the daredevilness of trying to get water up this guy in the winter. Sometimes that's just a sheet of ice going down there, and well, when you turn that corner, you're committed. So you gotta go like crazy. It's kind of another side benefit to having to get water all the time. It's taught Alyssa how to drive with a trailer. So we pick up milk in town, and the place where we get milk is a residence, and it's a very tight area. We like to be efficient, so oftentimes whoever makes the town run has to take the trailer to get water, has to take, we used to take gas cans to get generator fuel, propane. We call it the off-grid shuffle. Well, Alyssa, when she goes to get milk, has to take the truck and the trailer and she's long and it doesn't want to turn well. But the side benefit is she's faced that challenge and she's learned to drive around confidently in town with a long truck and a long wheelbase trailer. So if you want to say it that way, having to deal with water that way, it's taught Alyssa how to drive.
So I got good news and bad news. The good news is...
I never like when you start that way.
I know. So the good news is the cisterns are full.
They are?
Yeah.
So we haven't been using much water.
Apparently. Like here we are having this guilty conscience.
Right. I have a hunch you've been filling full cisterns. We're just not paying attention to the overflow, right?
Right. So our overflow is really high up on the hillside and we can't see it.
Yeah.
So I think we've been working our butt off and pumping water into the hillside.
We should plant something there.
Flipping awesome,
so
right?
that's the bad news.
That's the bad news.
Okay, I can handle
I think we've been pumping way too much water and working our butts off.
That's great. So I'm taking a bath tonight.
That's exactly what was going through my mind is like, but see, we had a bad experience right in the summer. We ran out of water. And I think that really like punctuated in our mind, we got to be conservative because we don't have endless water.
Yeah.
Of course, that was summer and it was really hard to tell how much we were using.
And we really don't need to be taking longer than 20-minute showers.
True. But, you know, even with the water that we have now, would you agree you're like, I'm using too much water, buzzer goes off? I mean, it's longer. It's longer. Yeah. Less guilt, right?
Yeah, less guilt.
You work so hard, but it's hard to use a lot of water in the RV. Anyway, so I ran the well. I know you shut it off earlier.
Right.
And I ran it again, and it's still super clear.
Okay.
I think this gives us time, though, to think about maybe water quality and maybe to do a well test.
Yeah.
And kind of just get a feel for what's in the well. Because I think once we put it in the cistern, it's going to be hard to like clean, and we want to make sure that we don't end up with a water quality issue by putting the water into the cisterns.
Right.
Anyway, so I just capped the well, and I think that's about it.
It's just weird. I feel like the water system's just working.
It is.
You know, here we are in the house. I guess that was always our goal, was to make sure the system was designed for the house. And in the middle of the night, like we've been under the weather, right?
Yep.
And in the middle of the night, you come down here and take a shower and feel better, or, you know, make some tea or something. I mean, that's pretty sweet. And the fact that the cisterns are full means that we're still being conservative.
I've been cooking up a storm, just massive amounts of dishes, and it just goes down the drain. It's awesome.
Yeah, it just disappears. Like it's, what did we do the other night? Oh, I made ice cream. And it's just like no big deal anymore. Yep. It used to be like this horrible headache.
Oh, yeah.
When we did the mead project, it was like, oh gosh,
Making
we have
cat food
buckets.
was the worst.
Cat food, yeah, just not having access to copious amounts of water. I feel like it's working really good.
When we first built the initial temporary water system, which had a above ground tank, we had a small transfer pump that looked just like this one. And that's what we were using to pump the water to the top of the hill. We were still using the IBC Tote to transfer the water from the watering hole, but that's how we got it up to the tanks. The nice thing was we could run this off the generator and pump for, say, 45 minutes, and then the system gravity fed down, which was fantastic because we were off grid and power was very limited. At some point, we decided to upgrade to this larger pump. This is a shallow well jet pump, and it just works faster. And it also takes a little bit less power. Getting it started takes a wee bit more, but once it's running, it's more efficient, and it pumps much quicker. To make life a little bit easier, I built this pump box last winter because we used to have to carry this horrifically heavy pump out, and it's cumbersome. And we knew that if we ever dropped the pump, you know, it probably would break it, and that would be really bad for our household. So I built this system with a check valve and with quick fittings and a timer. And this really made our water system a lot easier day to day. We basically could bring the water in, take the pump box, which is heavy, but it's at least ergonomic, hook it into a hydrant, which was frost free. So we could even do this in cold months, which we've been doing at like 5 degrees, pump the water to the top of the hill using the timer. The timer stops so that the pump doesn't run dry. The check valve kept the water coming down the inlet line from back feeding through the pump into the IBC Tote. And this system has been working really well.
I think having planned ahead for winter months, which are really the tough times, although water quality in the summer can be an issue too, but as far as pumping, we planned ahead for winter. The problem was we really didn't have anywhere to keep this pump to keep it from freezing because we had very little temperature controlled storage space. Thankfully, now that we're in the house, having hoses and things in the house and they stay thawed out is great. So that was a struggle for a little while. But overall, the cisterns, the frost-free hydrant, inlet, and this pump have been a fantastic system.
It feels kind of weird to retire this. I don't even really know what to do with it. I guess maybe we'll keep our ears peeled for somebody maybe who could use it. I know there's some families who have moved to the area recently who are doing something very similar to what we did, having to transfer water from a tank that they bring from town maybe into an RV or into a cistern or something like that. And I don't know, maybe this will do them some good. Before we started our water system, we invested in this book by Art Ludwig. He actually has a really powerful website that discusses a lot of domestic water systems and has some really great information. But this book, I feel like, goes into even more detail and talks about really primitive and kind of low-tech systems, which, because we had planned on being off-grid, or we at least wanted to try that, this book is really well suited to that, because these systems that Art designs are often in very primitive areas, and they don't rely on pumps and power to solve problems. They rely on good design.
I think now that we have a well, it's easy to think that we're kind of out of the tough spot. But I think now that we have a well, it's actually really good for us to go back through this book. Because a well is really just that, it's a well. It doesn't guarantee anything. And we have a lot to learn about water treatment, and of course about how to make sure that we have water available. Obviously, we have no time or history with this well. The well driller said we would have to, if the water table in our area were to drop 47 feet, effectively causing our well to dry up, our entire area has a major problem. But I think there's a lot that we can do to make sure that we're taking care of the well, and of course, ultimately taking care of our water system. One of the reasons that we put in a fire hydrant on our system was not just for fire. This book by Art Ludwig talks a lot about making sure that you can clean and sanitize your water storage. Because we have a frost-free system that's all below ground, we couldn't use some of the techniques that he explains in here about having a clean-out drain and then maybe a primary drain. So instead, we chose to attach the main to the bottom of the cisterns and to attach a very large water line, which in this case is 2-inch, and to hook it to a 2-inch hydrant. And that hydrant at full flow will actually empty our cisterns in about 6 minutes. It provides a really great tool to try to suck any sediment that ends up in the well out. Of course, we've been hauling domestic water that's been treated, and so our water quality going into the cisterns has been very high. But now that we have the well, I think we really need to think carefully about what we're putting into the cisterns. If we're not careful, we'll end up putting a lot of sediment in there. And if there's any kind of bacterial load or anything, even though the tanks are below ground and they'll stay cool, I think we need to monitor it more closely to make sure that we don't end up creating some sort of peripheral water quality issue. If you're thinking about designing a water system and you haven't seen this book, go visit Art's website. I think it's oasisdesign.net. We'll try to link to that in the description of this video. And if you're interested, maybe invest in this book. We'll link to that. I think we purchased it from Amazon. I feel like it's just a good resource to have around. It really helps you understand how much, as a industrialized society, America relies on electricity and pumps and things to solve a lot of problems, where good design and good forethought will help create a water system that'll serve a home or even a community with very little effort, and you can actually increase the quality of water in that system. So I think in the next few days we'll grab a water sample and try to find somebody who can do an analysis for us. It sounds like from talking to the pump guy that water softeners are fairly common in our area, and it's quite likely that we may have to install a filter, although to be honest, I'd much rather filter the water going into the cisterns instead of trying to filter it at the point of use. Although, I guess if I think about it, the garden doesn't really care. It's more the domestic use that's good. I guess we just need to do more research. The good news is, cisterns are full, we've got the well, it's flowing water, and we're looking forward to using it. Another thing that we need to continue researching is some sort of system that will help us to monitor the status of the cisterns so that we know, where they're at instead of having to go visually look, which clearly isn't working. But I think before that, we need to make sure that we can consistently get clean water from the well, or fairly clean, satisfactory. And then to have the system that monitors the level of water in the cisterns simultaneously talk to the well pump so that the cisterns are basically always full. We've done quite a bit of research on systems like that, and it seems like we can find some components that do what we want, but we have yet to find a system that does it all. And there's a lot of factors. For example, the fact that we have 8-inch thick concrete walls. And the fact that we don't really want to run a wired system if we can get away with a wireless system. So we have a lot of research left to do, and I think taking the time to design the system and make sure it's going to work properly, it's time well spent.